So this video serves as the summation of the multiple videos where I've talked about how common sense philosophy attempts to bring back philosophy, the idea that we can use our mind, rational thought to come up with possible answers to questions and ask them the right way. So science, in my mind, has taken over this whole business. That's why there's no philosophy. And so we're going to concentrate on some of the questions I've had in my previous videos, like AI consciousness, human consciousness, God, and intelligence. All four of those things are linked, except maybe the God thing. That serves as an example for how people ask questions that can't be answered. And I think this was what Wittgenstein was getting at in his first book. I don't do research, so I have no idea, and I don't like him. But here's the point. The point is, I've had intelligent friends caught in the science game who don't seem to think there's any alternative to science in the sense that it tells us what evidence is. Science is basically a language that has as its epistemological premise, epistemology being your working theory of knowledge, that everything's about evidence. And so, yes and no would be the philosopher's answer, that evidence is a lot more complicated. And part of philosophy's job is to decide what evidence even is. Most people are victims to this problem where they ask a question that can't be answered. So, one of those questions is AI conscious? And so, if you don't know what consciousness is, you have no working model, you argue about whether it even exists, which is another question that really can't be asked without knowing more about it, then you're really playing a game. So let's relate this to the idea of pondering the God concept. If you ask, is there a God? And so I've called this the atheist agnostic position. And that is the atheist position. I don't believe in a God currently, but if you show him to me, then I'll believe it. That is asking a question, is there a God? That in some sense you have to take seriously. Because you don't take it seriously, you're going to laugh your ass off, like I do. And so, is your statement of belief that you take it seriously and you want to learn more? Or is your statement of belief that you want to laugh your ass off? Because that's kind of what I want to do. And so, I'm trying to apply that concept to consciousness, AI consciousness, and intelligence. And applying it to God is very different because God isn't something that we have any testimonial about. Whereas consciousness fits perfectly into the common sense model. The common sense model is we start to build a new idea about evidence regarding how everyone experiences something universally. And even though Kant didn't want to admit this, that was what Kant was getting at. He meant if we can find these absolute universals, those are different than mass appeals, fallacy of the consensus, things where a lot of people believe the earth is flat. That's why I believe the earth is flat. That's not what we're saying. We're saying everyone has this experience of consciousness. What is it? And without having any idea what we're even asking about, it's even more silly to say, are these little robots we invented going to be conscious? We don't know what it is, so we can't invent it. We can't build it into our little robots. And more importantly, whatever the thing is, there are ingredients to getting to it. There are some ways of understanding that we need in order to get to it and talk about it. We're not doing that with robots. Robots are super simple in the sense that we know how they operate because we built them. So they do have a language, they do have certain capabilities. They basically work like mental tape recorders. They get a lot of data, then they analyze that data. The better they are, the more data they can hold, and the faster they do it. I know someone's going to argue with me on this. And yes, there's nuance to what they do with the data, but none of these things work into any complex idea about what consciousness would be. One. Two, we don't know where to start with the question. What is consciousness? So Chalmers wants to talk about kind of glibly that we have a subjective experience, that we're not zombies. I guess zombies are us without the subjective experience. I don't know how you would know because you're not a zombie. I don't know that he's doing us any favors by being one of the few philosophers that's still outside the scientific language game and wanting to say there's a hard problem, consciousness, and then an easy problem, which is obviously what science is doing and solving and talking about. And so I guess Chalmers' main point is there's no distinction between easy and hard. Not enough people make that distinction. And that's the same thing I've been saying about rote and process knowledge, that it's not that I thought I was a genius inventing these two definitions, rote and process. It's that I focused as a priority, as a pretend thinker, on the distinction and the fact that people weren't getting it. They weren't operating with all the shit coming out of their mouth with a working model about what it means to be a memorizer relative to the idea of being somebody consciously intelligent, being somebody who can invent, even if it's not brand new, but can put things together, what I call process, in order to invent an idea that is yours.